species. You go. It's a reminder of what community means first. It's all the living things in one area, or several populations living together and how they interact with each other. First up, when we're talking about a community, we have to see where these things live and how those overlap. So, a habitat is the location where an organism lives. A niche actually has a very long definition if you look it up, but basically, what a niche is habitat and how it uses its habitat. So, I have a list of things coming up in a minute. The habitat is more like maybe a tree. Whereas a niche, you can see they have three birds living in the same tree, but they use it in different ways. Here's some things that are included in a niche. So, where you are in the food web, what temperature you like, what type of food you eat, how you get your food, what other species also eat that food, who eats you, how you reproduce, the weather you like, temperature, all that. The important thing to remember is no two species can have the exact same niche. If they do, they're going to compete with each other, and there's going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser. So these birds live in the same habitat, the same tree, but they do not have the same niche. They don't use the tree in exactly the same way. So this kind of bird lives on the top of the tree. This kind of bird lives in the middle. This one lives toward the bottom. So organisms can have the same habitat, but they will not have the same niche. They won't use it in exactly the same way. Ways that community members can interact. First one is competition. It's when there are limited resources and more than one organism is trying to use those same resources. It can be food, space, mates, anything. For animals, this could end up looking like fighting. Plants compete too, even though it's not as exciting looking as animals, but they still do it. Predator and prey. This is a graph. We see this a lot with predator and prey. Wolves are the red line, and moose are the bluish purple line. What you can notice over time is the moose go up, and a couple years later, the wolves go up. And the moose go down, the wolves go down, and up and down, and up and down, and so on. What this means is you get more moose. That means there's more food for the wolves. So a few years later, they can increase. But then the wolves eat all the moose, so the moose population goes down. Wolves have run out of food now. They go back down, and up and down, and up and down, and up and down together over time. Our last group are symbioses, which is where two species live close together. Technically, the first two are also symbioses, but these three definitely fit under that definition. Mutualism, both of them benefit. I have several examples for all of these. For example, flowers have a problem with reproduction. If you want two plants to come together to make baby plants, well, it's not like they can get up and go find each other. So instead, plants use insects or birds or bats and other things like that to help them to pollinate. The bee, in this case, gets nectar to make its honey, so it's getting something out of it. The flower gets help with reproduction, it gets something out of it. They're both benefiting from this relationship. That's mutualism. The middle picture, the sea anemone gets protected because the clownfish will chase away small fish trying to come after it. The clownfish gets protected because sea anemones are animals that can sting, so anybody who tries to come after the clownfish will get stung. They're both protecting each other. It's mutualism. The one on the right, there's a little tiny bird on top of that antelope. The bird will eat parasites off of the antelope, so the bird's getting food. The antelope doesn't have parasites anymore, and they both benefit. Mutualism. Commensalism is where one benefits and the other one just, it doesn't care. The picture on the left, whales have barnacles attached to them. That's what those bumps are. Barnacles are actually tiny animals. And once they attach to something, they can't move anymore. They're stuck there for the rest of their life. So they have to attach to a good place or else they're not going to have very much food. So sometimes barnacles will attach to whales or to sea turtles or things like that. The whale doesn't really care. It's just living its life. But now the barnacle is getting a benefit out of this. They get better food, so commensalism. This picture on the right, we have those tiny fish are called remora, and they follow around sharks. So as the shark is eating, the remora kind of follow behind and eat all the scraps. So the shark really doesn't care either way. Who cares if there's another shark following you? The little fish, the remora, get extra food. So commensalism. Our last one is parasitism, where one benefits and it hurts the other. So fleas, mosquitoes, ticks. You can even include like bacteria and viruses in here. They are benefiting because they're eating you, and they're hurting whoever they live on. So, last thing about communities. A climax community is a mature, stable community. It's not undergoing any major changes. You could have, let's go back to this. You could have a community, let's say that like a volcano explodes and it completely annihilates the entire community. Well, you'll first have little tiny plants that come back and small animals, and then you get bigger plants and bigger animals and so on until you end up getting a whole giant forest. That end product is your climax community. Things are still changing inside of that climax community. It's just the community as a whole is very stable now. So what should we know about communities? Let's back it up. You should know what a community means, what a habitat versus a niche are, and why organisms cannot share the same niche. You should know some ways that community members can interact with each other, like competition and predator-prey and the different kinds of symbioses. Let's make our word symbiosis for today. If you have any questions, let me know. See you next time.